Hey guys, it's Slots, and today I wanted to talk about the dating scene in the modern day and if it's actually bad as people are saying it is. I feel like everyone, including me, seems to complain about how bad the state of dating is nowadays. I've seen so many studies showing that the majority of Gen Z is single and struggle to get into relationships, and I was curious if that is a reflection of how the dating world has changed in this generation or how we are as individuals in our everyday lives. I think it's a mix of both, and I'm going to get into it in today's video. Firstly, I just want to mention that I don't think this is a gender thing. I feel like I see everywhere of guys and girls complaining about the other gender, saying it's all men's fault or it's all women's fault that they're not able to get into a relationship. I really don't think this is true. I think it's just an easy way to put the blame on something. And I think it has more to do with how we are today as people than gender. I also don't think this is an issue exclusive to dating. I think it's also an issue with making new friends, but the main topic of this video is dating. So, first off, I want to talk about how changes in our world have impacted the dating scene. There has been a decrease in the number of third spaces and the amount of people going to them in the past decade or so. In case you don't know what a third space is a public space that is pretty easy to get by, meaning you don't have to pay much to get involved, and it's not your house or your work, which is your first and second space. Some examples of these include the mall, coffee shops, bars, parks, and gyms. I feel like the mall is such a great example of this because malls have been closing forever now, it seems like. For the past 15 years, it seems malls everywhere across the country are closing. And that used to be a great space for people to go and hang out with each other, even if the point of it wasn't shopping. I mean, I remember my friends in middle school and high school would go to the mall just to literally walk around, grab a snack, and go home. It was just somewhere to go. Now it feels like every time I go on YouTube and look up malls, it's all about how all these malls are closing, exploring an abandoned mall, and they're just not as relevant as they used to be. And obviously, there's still coffee shops, bars, parks, and gyms. But I feel like it's not as common, at least in my experience, for people to go to these places expecting to meet new people. And the reason why I think this is because there's so many things you could do in the comfort of your own home nowadays. What's the point of going out? I mean, the replacement for the mall was online shopping. And now with food and drinks, you could order that straight to your door with DoorDash. You could watch any movie using any streaming service now. What's the point of going to the theater anymore? Everything can be done from the comfort of your own home. Another factor in addition to this is also the cost of it. Especially nowadays, people are trying to cut back costs as much as possible, and a lot of this stuff has to do with money, and if they could cut back on it, they're going to cut back on it. The next change to this world that has impacted the dating scene is the internet and just the fact that everything is digital nowadays. And this just doesn't affect dating, it affects literally everything in our society today. Everything is online nowadays. You cannot do so many things without the internet. And this has led to the internet becoming a huge part of people's lives and how many people now connect with each other. I have met so many people through the internet, and I know so many other people who have as well, and I feel like it has slowly become the new normal way to meet new people. This has kind of replaced the third spaces in a way where now you could hop on a Discord group or a Reddit group or any kind of social media group really and meet new people who have similar interests to you. And yeah, it's easier and it's more convenient, and you have that guarantee of you will have something in common. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I could actually develop a romantic relationship with someone through the internet unless I'm meeting up with them in person. Which leads to the next thing, which is probably the biggest and most popular way people are dating nowadays, and that is through dating apps. Now, I have very little experience with dating apps. I've used Tinder and Hinge for a week or two in total. And I've never gone on a date with anyone that I've met on a dating app. But I have so many friends who have used them, and I think it's probably the most popular way of people meeting up nowadays. And from the experiences of my friends, most of them have not had a relationship last from a dating app. Besides one of my friends who has been dating his girlfriend for over 2 years now, and they met on Hinge. And there's obviously examples of people finding their life partners from these apps, but I think it's more rare than people think. But again, it's kind of replaced that third space aspect where you're just going on an app to meet new people and you're just swiping right or left. And I think, yeah, it's definitely convenient, but I think there are more negatives than pros to it, personally. I mean, I've been really tempted to put my full effort into it because it honestly seems like the best option for someone like me that is pretty nervous when meeting new people. But I always get reminded of the fact that statistically, girls have a higher chance of getting matches than guys because there are way more guys on these apps than girls. And as a result of that, I've heard stories of guys getting literally no matches. And I also noticed that it definitely seems to be based more on looks than personality. And I think this is just because it's very hard to kind of give someone your full personality through a dating profile. I know apps like Hinge have prompts that you could kind of add like a funny joke or whatever, talk about what you like, but I don't think that really shows your personality. So I feel like people are just going to go based on your looks. And therefore, if you're not like peak attractiveness, you're most likely not going to get swiped on. Another thing with dating apps is that there's like technically endless options. You could kind of keep swiping and you'll always find someone new. And that could leave you thinking of the possibility that someone better is out there, even if you're talking to someone currently. Because you could be talking to someone and be like, oh, well, they don't fit this, but this person does, and maybe there's someone else out there that fits all my boxes that I want. Which technically you could say is true in the real world as well, but I feel like it's a lot easier to have that mindset when you literally are swiping past people with every single time you swipe, there's someone new on there. It's also so much easier to ghost someone on a dating app than in person. And yes, ghosting happens in real life as well, but it's definitely less common than on the internet just because it's so easy to just ignore someone online. All of this could also apply to social media as well, not just dating apps. I mean, you have more access to people than ever before. And again, it may seem better because there are more options, but I honestly think it has more negatives than benefits. I feel like constantly seeing other people on social media that you could potentially fall in love with leads to that mindset that there is always someone better and you may not even be satisfied with what you have. Which that leads into our other point of this video, which is how individually we have set us up for failure in the dating market. Outside influence is a huge factor in my opinion. I think constantly seeing posts on social media, especially of like people being in relationships and just like showing off kind of what couples do, can have a really negative effect on how someone even perceives their own relationship. A phrase I hear a lot on social media in regards to dating, especially towards men, is if he wanted to, he would. And some of these posts are good. I'm not saying all of them are bad, where they're just talking about how a guy is doing a nice thing for his girlfriend. But then there's other posts where guys are, taking their girls on vacations to the Bahamas and they're like doing all this crazy stuff where it's like that will take a lot of, money, preparation and stuff like that. And I feel like that just sets bad expectations where if you're in a relationship with someone and they're not able to do that, it's like, oh, well, they're not worth it. There's someone better for me out there because they could provide this for me. That's a thing I see a lot. And I also see on both sides as well where they talk about like red flags in a relationship where it's like if a guy's doing this, it's a red flag. Or if a girl does this, it's a red flag. Whereas I think everyone does have red flags. No one's a perfect person. And I think if you see one of these videos where it talks about, oh, if your boyfriend or girlfriend does this, you need to leave them. I think that's absolutely crazy. A general factor that I think is a good thing, but it definitely has had an impact on the dating market, is that everyone, more specifically women, are much more independent nowadays than previous generations. A lot more women are going to college, getting degrees, and getting full-time jobs, whereas before they would just go to high school, graduate, get married, have kids. They're more busy with their own lives to focus on putting their attention towards finding a relationship. And the same thing can be said about men as well. I feel like this idea of becoming independent and self-reliant has really been very popularized, and I feel like everyone is kind of following that. And with that, obviously, more people are focusing on themselves rather than finding someone else. One thing I also think is pretty popular that I hear everywhere is that people have a fear of commitment. They don't want to put a label on anything, but you act like you're in a relationship. I feel like the most popular term I hear is a situationship. I personally will never understand someone who does everything pretty much like you're in a relationship. You have feelings for each other, but you don't want to put a label on it. I don't know. I don't want to be put in a situation like that, and I think hopefully if I ever find myself in that, I'll be able to kind of wake myself up. But I do understand that it's difficult, but I just think it's so crazy that people don't want to commit to a relationship when you're pretty much already in one. And the last thing in this category that I have is something that I'm super guilty of, and that is looking for the perfect person. Which is a very bad mindset to have because I really do believe you're not going to find someone that checks every single one of your boxes. And that is just human nature. I mean, I surely have problems that people would not be fond of. And I think of it like if this was my friend, I'm trying to pursue them as a friend, I don't think it would bother me in certain ways. Now, obviously, there are things that are non-negotiables for people. But the way I see it in my mind, that is really, really bad. If there is anything off, if there's anything not on my checklist, it's like they're not the one for me. There could be someone better. When I think a relationship is about taking both individuals and coming together and like kind of like compromising, I guess, if that makes sense. But I feel like this idea of finding a perfect person has definitely affected me, so I'm sure it's affected other people as well. So for the last part of this video, which is going to be kind of crazy considering I have never been in a relationship, and that is how to find a partner in the modern day. And I think the number one thing we could all gather from this is to get off the dating apps or use them less and smarter. And that is just to not rely on them exclusively. Dating apps are not the best way to find someone. I'm not saying to not use them at all. I think if you just limit them and not be your main source of finding new people, I think that is the best way to go about it. I also think you should just know what you want. Do you want a relationship or do you just want to hook up? Do you want a new friend? I think you need to make it clear because I feel like people don't know what they want and they get into these dating apps or they just start talking to someone and they don't make it clear, and that results in people being confused, leads to people ghosting, leads to people just not getting along. And if you were clear from the beginning on what you want, then I feel like it would just make it so much easier. Finally, in order to actually find people, I think you should go out to places or join activities that you're actually interested in. If you're super passionate about religion, try joining a religious group or an organization with people around your age. If you're interested in a certain hobby, try looking up different clubs or organizations in your area. I feel like this is such a good way to meet new people because you already have something in common, and it's not like you're going up to a random girl or guy on the street and just being like, hey, I think you're cute, can I have your number? I feel like it's just easier to kind of have like the organic chemistry kind of form. I don't know. And it's also a good way to get out of the house and do something you love. Something I always hear that I find so funny, and I think this is a good example of this, that people will complain about their partner going out to like a bar or a club, and they're like, oh, like, why are you going out to a bar or a club? Like, you're with me. Like, what's the point? When they met each other at a bar or a club, and it's like, that's what your partner likes to do. You know, I'm not going to shun them for that. It's like, you literally met there. How are you mad that they're going out when they're literally doing what they like to do? And the last thing here is getting over the fear of rejection. And instead of overthinking your head of what to say or if you're going to get rejected, just try to have a normal conversation. And that's why I try to encourage you to go out somewhere where you have kind of that thing in common, because it's easier to just have a conversation about that rather than like, oh, where are you from? Like, you know, like you have something to start the conversation with. You have the icebreaker. I feel like from a girl's perspective, if a guy comes up to you at like a bar or a club, I feel like the thing in their head is like, okay, this guy's interested in me. What is he going to say? And they're probably already making up their mind if they're going to like reject you or not. Rather than if you just go up to them and talk about like something, you know, that's going on. Like say you're at a cycling class, I don't know, and you're just talking about, you know, exercises and stuff like that. Like I think it's easier for someone to reject you if you're at like a bar and you're just like, hey, like I think you're cute. Can I get your number? Rather than, you know, you go up to a girl and just ask her a question about, you know, whatever it is, just like a non-flirtatious thing. And even if they do reject you, it's really not the end of the world. I mean, I feel like it feels like that and you just get so in your head about it, but you got to realize it's just in your head and it's really not that big of a deal at the end of the day. So after all this, do I think the dating pool is cooked nowadays? And I do and I don't. I think the biggest thing that affects it is online, and if you're looking for a partner solely through, you know, online dating, I think the chances are lower. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think if you actually go outside and try to find someone in the real world, I think you have a higher chance of actually meeting someone. So that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this topic in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.